Okay, here we go. And we are on episode 9 of the Skybunker podcast. Our guest today. You don't have to say your names if you don't want to dox yourself. But yeah, here we are. So, okay, great.
Alright.
Go ahead. The floor is yours.
So, how did you guys meet?
Oh, we met on Bumble.
Yeah?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Most people meet that way these days.
What was the first date like?
We went in a bar. Great Tiger.
Grey Tiger?
Yes.
Fleur Street West, yeah.
Oh, I've never been. Man, there's a lot of restaurants in the city.
No worries, yeah, for sure. There's a lot.
I don't know why I feel like there's not a lot of good food in the city as I eat pizza. Like,
Oh, God.
There's so much good food here, actually. Like, my friend was in from New York this week, and he was talking about how people who live there, like Canadians who are transplanted there, all talk about how much better the food is in Toronto than New York.
oh, for real?
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe
I
that's
don't know
like
about
Toronto, like derangement syndrome or something.
That's like, that can't, like, just based on market size, that can't be right.
Well, apparently that's what they think, Joe.
Yeah.
Well, cheers, guys. Thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah.
It's cool. Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my brother moved to New York, and there's a lot of, like, I guess, variety down there. I guess, like, Toronto food is pretty good. I feel like New York, honestly, because I feel like if you look at, like, maybe the food supply chain, they might actually just have similar quality. But I've heard some people say that the U.S., on average, has worse quality. I don't know. It depends where you are in the U.S., because I feel like California has good quality produce. But, like, because in Canada, we import most of our food, right? So it's kind of like... But New York also doesn't really grow that many things locally because it has the same weather as us, right? So, like, will the food be that much better just based on produce? You know?
I'm not sure if this is anecdotal, but I remember being, like, when I go to the States, I find that food is less salty.
Less salty here?
Yeah. No, down there.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know if that's, like, a huge difference or not, but... I don't know, man. I think food in the States, like, has to be better. Just across the board.
I think it depends what state you're in. Like, I went to Iowa one time, and yeah, it's just they have a farming community there. But I actually think the best food in the U.S. is probably it's just where the produce is good. So a lot of people say California, but like I've been to L.A. I've been to many places in California, and I don't know. Like I don't think it's better.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's where like the best chefs all congregate too, right? Like New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Like they would have the most like kind of high end restaurants,
Would you-
Michelin stars, that kind of
Would
stuff.
you ever trust a skinny chef?
I had a friend who was legit a skinny chef,
Yeah.
and he was like skinny. Like he runs like 5-10K a day. Like he's skinny. He's been on this podcast actually. And oh crap! The camera's like melting. Yeah, I'll take the tripod off it 1 second. It's all good. I gotta like restructure this thing. Here we go. Yep, we're good. Okay, yeah. So let's jump into some topics. So like, I guess like, what 5 topics did you want to talk about today? Floor is yours. Anything you want?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But I just want to say I'm from Montreal.
Oh, cool.
The food is very good in Montreal.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, definitely.
Montreal's hard to debate, you know? I feel, okay, Montreal's a cultural center, but I'm saying, like, okay, Calgary can't have great food.
They
Okay.
got great steak there.
This
Yeah.
is true, actually.
Okay, but besides steak, I mean, they have that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like the U.S. just has a larger sample size of more cultural, like, palates. You have, like, the Latinos. You have, like, obviously, I mean, there's, like, African Americans. They have their own, like, food culture, too. But also just, like, the South. They have, like, brisket
Yeah.
and all that good stuff. You know what I mean? There's just so many areas. It's great.
Yeah.
But actually, I lived in Texas for like a couple months,
Yeah.
and what they eat, it's all like local. Like everything is, they're
That's
very
good.
proud of it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Have you guys ever thought about moving to the States?
I lived in the States for like more than a year in Boston.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no way.
Mhm.
Like, what's that? Would you move back to the States?
I'm not sure.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. Depends where.
Where would you not want to move to in the States?
I don't think I will move back to Texas.
Why is that?
It's too hot. It's like and they have cockroaches. Like I cannot deal with that.
Like I went to Texas. So I've been like my aunt and uncle live in Texas. I live in Houston, and so I've been to Texas probably like 3-4 times.
Mm-hmm.
And I go there in the winter, and like the winter is like our spring. Like I'm there in like January, February, and it's still like 20 degrees outside. And then I went there one time. I think we went in. I think it was like May or just like the spring, and it was really hot.
Yeah,
it was like
they call it hell summer. It's like you're dying.
It's super humid. Like the humidity's like 100%, and it's oppressive. And if like what's crazy about that place is they play a lot of sports outside. And like if you're in high school, you'll play football.
Yeah.
Outside?
Yeah.
Do they have like dome coverings for
So
the air conditioning?
no.
They
So
play
actually,
outside in that.
It's funny. The best football players come from like probably the hottest states. So like Southern California, Texas, Florida specifically.
Yeah, Florida.
Georgia too as well. But like those states have like the best football players, and I don't know. People are just acclimated to being outside.
But maybe Austin would be a great place to move in Texas, though. It's like the new.
I hear a lot of that too, right? Because it's like very progressive. That's like where like it's like a tech center. But there's a lot of like really like interesting places to move in Texas. Like Houston actually is mostly Latino.
Yes.
Yeah, it's actually more of an ethnic town than anything else. That's like no one really knows about that.
Yeah.
I mean, Dallas is Dallas. I don't know if you.
Dallas is boring.
Yeah, exactly. And then like I don't know, but you can't really do much else in Texas. Like Lubbock, there's not a lot of like big towns to go move and work unless maybe like you're in oil and gas, do some specialty job, right? There's only like a couple places you can move to. But no, I would love to even move to like Georgia. Like Atlanta sounds pretty dope.
Georgia, yes. Yeah.
Atlanta sounds like it's like a nice little cultural center of like a lot of things at once. And the South, people are just nicer too, I find. There's like a level of coldness that happens on like I don't know if it's like an East Coast thing or if it's like a cold. It can't be like a cold culture thing because people from BC are actually mad nice. I don't know what it is, but like there's there's like a southern like. Did you find that at all? Like a politeness.
Yeah, people are very nice.
Yeah.
They want to help you a lot.
Yeah.
They all have guns though, but.
Yeah.
They love Americans love guns.
Yeah.
This is part of the culture down there.
It's probably why they're all nice.
It's like it's like Thanksgiving. Do you want what do you guys want to do? He's like, do you want to like drink some beers and go out in the backyard and shoot some guns?
Yes.
It's like okay, sure, let's go do it.
I mean, like
it's like throwing football around to them. It's just a hobby.
Come on, nah.
No, the way that they do it so casually. Like, but the thing about them, though, they don't have done safety training. So when they do the shooting in the backyard, like they'll be like, okay, like they don't know how to do it. They're gonna help you do it. They're not just gonna give you a shotgun and be like, let's go shoot some play pitches.
Actually, they don't have like the required training like we have.
If you're an idiot with a gun, people like look down upon that. You know what I mean? It's like you need to understand these are dangerous things. Like there's a whole bunch of things to like even like trigger awareness. Like if you see someone like there's a whole thing about if you present a weapon right in the first place and it's not in like a combative scenario, you basically need to present it in a way to show that it's unloaded. Right, and you can't even in that scenario you can't point at somebody. And even still in that scenario, you can't even put like your finger in like the trigger loop.
Are you talking about open carry?
No, I'm saying there's a whole bunch of things basically to like gun culture in the States. Like they're actually they're very much so about gun safety. I'm not saying there's not idiots out there because you're making it seem like it's like yo Timmy, go grab the Glock, let's go shoot around.
No, they don't have gun safety in the U.S. Most Americans I know who own guns and have a lot of guns, they're like super crazy on the gun safety. They have gun lockers. They have like and the reason why is because like it's like the pride of ownership. It's like almost like taking care of your car. It's like, nah, you have guns, take care of your guns. Because like, especially if you have kids and everything, and you have guns in your house, like you're definitely gonna have the gun locker and like all this stuff. And,
That was just a few weeks ago. That kid brought a gun to school and shot his teacher. I think he was like 5 years old or something like that.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It happens there, but that's definitely the exception. Like I'm sure, like 99% of the owners are responsible, but it only takes that 1% who's not to like have something like that happen.
Maybe the teacher was an asshole.
Too soon.
I hear a lot of people move to Toronto, and like I feel like Montreal's even colder, but a lot of people move here and they're just like, yo, like Toronto's so cold. I'd much rather have like super hot weather than like the super cold weather. And like I'm kind of the opposite, honestly. Like this winter hasn't really been that bad. We had maybe 2 storms, right?
It's not bad at all.
But
it's very cold.
Like even today was like probably like 0 degrees. It's really like I kind of like it. It's because you don't sweat. The thing about really hot countries is that you need 2 things. You're gonna sweat like crazy, and then if it's really sunny, you need to wear sunblock. You're gonna get skin cancer because it's just like you're just being blasted all day long. So you're sweating, put the sunblock on, and then you're sweating, and then your clothes are wet, and then. If you need to like wear like a business suit or anything to go to, if you need to dress like professionally for work or like anything like that, you're gonna be sweating through your suit, and I don't know, it's just a little more intense. And then I had my sister-in-law. She's from Vietnam, which is super hot, right? And then she went to California, and then she came here First cold country she's ever seen in her life. And she came here during like the most hardcore storm we had during Christmas, right? And she said, "Yo, you guys are like so skinny. How do you stay skinny in Canada if you can't like exercise outside every day?" And I looked at her, I said, like, "What are you talking about? I still exercise." She's like, "How do you exercise in the snow?"
People here
Let's go
aren't
jogging.
skinny either.
Yeah, let's go jogging. It's like whatever. She's like, "That's so hardcore."
That's so
That's
cool.
Yeah, it's actually easier to jog in the cold than it is when it's 40 degrees out because
Yeah.
when it's,
Oh yes.
you'll get heat
Your
stroke.
lungs, it's very dangerous, no?
Yeah, you'll get heat stroke.
I
Can't
still
breathe.
think it's still pretty hardcore, man. Like those people that like
You
on
can
the
do it
first
too.
snow are like, "Oh, I can't wait to go run."
I'm not like that, but it's more just like I'll like if it's snowing, it usually means it's not that cold. When it's truly cold, it won't even snow.
But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
not very.
yeah.
I mean, for me, this is not like in Montreal, it's colder than.
Yeah, no, Montreal's
Yeah,
cold.
Montreal gets
It's like
yeah.
10 degrees, 15
Honestly,
degrees
like
colder, plus snow.
any further north than like the GTA, you start realizing, oh shit, this is real Canada.
Yes.
You know, like you go to like Barrie, like
Yeah,
wow.
Calgary, so.
Yeah, it's like bone shattering. You feel it in your bones. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't want to go outside.
yeah. I don't know. Like my parents had the smart idea of immigrating from the equator to Canada. It's just like I'm still like struggling with my differences in that. But you know, what's the coldest temperature you guys have ever felt?
I think it was. I was in Calgary. I was in Edmonton during February. It was like minus 45 or something.
Yeah.
Very cold.
Isn't there a point
That's
where
brutal.
like,
That's brutal.
what's the number where Fahrenheit degrees end up being?
Minus 40, I think.
Is it
Yeah,
40?
something
Is
like
the same?
that, yeah. It was like minus 100 on Mount Washington, like, was it last week? You know, like when we had that like really cold
Minus 100?
Yeah.
Jesus
Celsius
Christ.
or Fahrenheit?
I
It's the
think
same.
it's the same,
It's the
but
same, but
or I don't know,
minus
exactly, but
100
it's
Celsius.
Fahrenheit because it was from the U.S., right? But yeah,
Minus 100 Celsius, that's like...
minus 100 Celsius doesn't exist.
Is that like that's sub-zero?
How much is it?
that-
How much is
that
a how much is a Kelvin? You know,
I don't know, man.
that's a
I
measurement.
don't know.
Kelvin and Celsius, I think are the same, but Kelvin starts at 0.
Is
Like
it-
that's the coldest temperature. Like 0 degrees Kelvin is like the coldest possible temperature.
Really? I thought it was like minus 432 or like minus 4.
That's the Celsius like
Oh,
equivalent or
okay,
something
okay,
like
yeah,
that. I
yeah,
think,
yeah. But like that isn't that the same concept from like Day After Tomorrow? Like you're telling me now that actually happened in real life?
The temperature?
Yeah.
I don't think it was like I forget what the plot of
The
that movie was.
Was
but,
it a polar
like,
vortex? Is
Something
there not a
like
polar
that,
vortex
yeah.
that happens in the movie?
yeah, basically.
Yeah, and then like now these things just happen. We should
Yeah.
listen to Al Gore, I guess. Fuck, you know.
And like people were all trying to move in like the South, like Central America.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Which is ironic because right now everyone's trying to move out of Central America.
Yes.
I mean, that's not. I don't know. It's not too funny. It's terrible. There's a lot of bad things happening there right now. But it's actually interesting. There's a huge like migration of Latam people that I've noticed quite recently over the last like year and a half specifically. Obviously, it's been like a diaspora coming over for quite some time. But I have like a bunch of friends now from like Nicaragua or Venezuela, Argentina,
Guatemala.
yeah, all these random places, right? Yeah, it is interesting. It's like a huge influx, and you keep on talking. Brazil,
El Salvador.
yeah,
so
yeah,
much,
and it's like terrible because they're usually coming from like really bad conditions, and they like had to leave. Now they're here.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think like economically those countries are like just having issues. So for
Yeah.
them to come to Canada, like for them it's like forget like the weather and like quality of life. It's like if your country's economy is falling apart,
Yeah,
and
there's
and
no jobs.
there's no jobs.
Yeah.
It's like I get the fuck out of here, man. Like you know.
that's.
So we benefit from that, right? Like we
Yeah.
have this like cultural mix of all these different people, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, we benefit from it 100%, but it's also like I think an economically tricky thing for Canada to be doing, because basically right now I think part of the strategy is to basically be importing in enough people so they create enough economic activity that you're not in a technical recession, because GDP is increasing not really by them not really by like new migrants bringing in like new businesses, it's just based purely off their economic activity. Right, so we're not exactly technically in like a recession.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I've seen that expose on CBC. It was about these. Okay, two things happened. I saw 92 students did a fake ultrasound course for 2 years, and this was on the news today.
No,
and their
that's
certificate was not like accredited by like I guess the Canadian healthcare system. So 92 people got scammed doing an ultrasound. It's a 2-year program, and they're all immigrants. And then this other thing happened at it's at university. It's called CBU. It's the university in. It's Cape Breton University in Nova Scotia, and they brought in so many foreign students to the point where the town couldn't sustain everyone. So the students came in and they were homeless and shit, like living out of shopping carts, you know. And then the recruitment centers, and look, we're actually primarily in India, where they were just bringing back so many people they were saying things like, they were promising them things like, oh, you go there, it's like, you know, $17,000 a year. You only have to pay for your first year. And then after that, you can probably get a job to pay for your second year, and then you'll get a job upon graduation, and like, yeah, you'll find housing, and then there's also, they admitted all these kids into this university, like, made it into a degree mill, and like, all these kids got screwed. Like, people were showing up, like, at least they were calling it the Canadian education system scam.
Oh my god.
Well,
Yeah.
honestly,
So bad.
It's horrible.
it's like, okay, I've had several conversations with immigrants who come from like different areas, right? And it's sort of unfortunate because it's great that we're creating a pathway for people coming from unfortunate scenarios to come to Canada, but we're not exactly doing them the greatest of services when they get here in the first place. There's really no oversight. The regulatory boundaries behind like them being able to utilize their education for the same job here are like the red tape's insane. They have to come over here and retrain. The cost of that is going to be is ridiculous. And then on top of that, like the jobs that we do put them in generally are like quote unquote convenient, right? So you have like a lot of like immigrants who are like doing like PSW work. They don't necessarily want to do that. So
doctors working as nurses or something.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
They can't get their accreditation.
Yeah,
in
so
their area.
so I think it's great that we're bringing in immigrants, but I think there's two sides to that story. You know what I mean? Like how's the quality of life of these immigrants being brought in, and then honestly, the long-term ramifications of this are like a couple of things. First of all, because of where we're at in stagflation, right? I.e., like I think Sarah did this the last podcast too. Currency is inflating, so to fix that you have to increase interest rates. But because of that, borrowing becomes more expensive. That means then institutions are not providing capital to developers. Developers are not creating more housing. So while we're also increasing the population, so we're creating essentially like a housing shortage. And then you have to also consider the fact that like this also means that if borrowing is expensive, the mortgage market's not going to be as like open, right? So you're going to create like a more aggressive rental market.
It's a house of cards right now.
Yeah, so it's an absolute, and this is on the back of the fact that like we really have no domestic. When I say this, Canada does not really have a lot of domiciled businesses here. Like all of the businesses here that employ the majority of people are essentially subsidiaries of like foreign companies.
Is Montreal experiencing a housing crisis in the same way that Toronto is?
Yeah.
Like it's now it's expensive and there's like a lot of competition just for like renting an apartment.
So it's happening there too, because like Montreal for a long time was like, it was a good deal.
But it's I mean for me here it's crazy expensive and it was very difficult for me to find an apartment, even like compared to Boston and Houston.
Oh yeah, Boston and Houston don't have housing issues.
No, but Boston is like twice the price of the rent here. It's like it's crazy expensive.
Like renting in Houston's twice the price.
Boston.
I will say Boston.
So Boston is, because I Houston.
Houston's it's
cheap.
It's not that cheap, but living in
yeah.
Houston's very cheap. Like food is cheap, everything is cheap.
Yeah.
No state taxes on your income.
No taxes.
I heard what they do in Houston though, because my brother was considering moving there from California.
Oh yes, a lot of people are doing that.
So what he says is that in California, your property tax is like pretty high, but apparently in Texas, your property tax is like the highest.
Yes, it's very high.
So like, I heard like your property tax, because I heard like buying a house in Texas is not that expensive, but I heard what it is in California. We'll tax you when you make money, but in Texas, we'll tax you when you spend your money. So your car when you buy a car, the car tax is really high. Excuse me. Registrations, anything related to your car is going to be more expensive. But they said the property tax in Texas is because I guess what it is that they charge you less state income tax on your income.
They don't charge any actually.
It's like zero
state income tax,
which is incredible. You can like really ball up. But they said but because of that, they need to generate revenue somehow to pay for like education and services, because like education is not terrible, right? So it's like
but it's the scheme lets people like pick and choose how they want to save and invest and pay taxes and defer when they have to pay taxes. Right? If you're getting taxed when you get employed, the money's taken up front. Whereas if it's more about like spending, then you can kind of structure your spending so that you can like push off taxes or minimize it.
Have you considered living there?
No, I've considered California. My brother lives out there.
No, my brother too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where does your brother live in California?
He's in the Silicon Valley.
Like Palo Alto or SF? SF Palo Alto.
Palo Alto. He's in Mountain View actually.
Does he work for Google? There you go. Everyone works. If you work there, you're an engineer, man. That's pretty good. My brother's an engineer too, so he lives in he was in SF. He moved to Oakland, so we could like buy a place there. And then he doesn't work. He works with like Lyft. He doesn't work with like Google though. Yeah, but this we're a big tech company. Like, have you visited him?
Yeah, lots of times.
Do you like his stuff?
I do. I haven't really been there much since the pandemic. Like, so I understand it's changed a lot. Like, you know, it's kind of like a ghost town now, and they definitely.
Your brother posts the funnious things ever, bro. Actually,
so many homeless people, bro.
It's like
Dude, City Hall there is a giant homeless camp.
It's so sad.
It's crazy, but you know what though? Like they're saying it's the local government's fault for doing this. Yeah, it's their fault. They're not managing it correctly.
Yeah.
Well, I've been saying this, man. Honestly, it's like has anyone ever given you the example of the compound interest? To understand the value of compound interest each year.
Yes.
Now imagine that, but like for homeless people, right? So it's like each year you don't find a suitable solution for this. It compounds and it gets much worse. So like where they're at right now in San Francisco, for a couple of things, Toronto should be looking at this and be like, holy, like shit, that's where we're going. If not already being there. Like because where San Francisco is at, and I've said this before, it's unmanageable. The solution that they're gonna have for homelessness, if they actually want to have one, is gonna be dystopian. It's already dystopian right now. But it gets to a point where like it doesn't matter how much money you throw at it, you just can't fix it because it's literally a mental health and like substance abuse issue. And some people are completely irredeemable in like their current legal infrastructure. You just can't. There's nothing you can do about it. There's some people who basically you'll pick them up off the street after they do something. You can't really take them to prison because it's not really like they didn't do a crime. It's more of a mental health case. Mm-hmm. So you put them into a shelter where they can't stay, and then they go back on the street and they do the same thing over and over again. It's just like
you're talking about like converting all of that like empty office because a lot of companies have like abandoned their offices or gone remote and like maybe converting some of that to housing to try to like.
But that's like a short-term solution, right? It's like.
Not necessarily. I mean, some of that could be permanently converted to housing.
But it gets to a point where it's like, are you creating now an environment that's attractive for more homeless people to come?
Yeah. Well, the issue with the shelters is that they won't give you shelter. They won't let you into the shelters if you're doing drugs.
Yeah.
Because like.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
I think they need like shelters with like social services, but they need like employees to.
And and you bring a great point about that because the shelters are an absolute shit show. Do you want to work at a homeless shelter? Do you want to manage?
Very dangerous.
Right? So,
I have a friend right now who was working at a homeless shelter. So she was up at night. So I said, if you're doing your night shift, she works till 7 a.m. every day.
Yeah.
I said, you can just call me at night because I'm up at night too, right? So she calls me at 3 a.m. So she's just like guarding the desk, right? It's fucking crazy. This person in the background starts making this noise. It was like. And then she's like, hold on, I gotta handle this. Goes outside. She's like, are you okay? And the person was like, and then it sounded like a zombie. It was terrible. And I said, what's wrong with this person? And it's like they OD'd, so they gave her CPR. So one of her lungs are like compressed. So she's making these noises, and then she started coughing up blood. And then she's like, do you want me to call you an ambulance? So then they call her an ambulance and they drag her out, and I'm just like, holy! She's like, this happens every day.
Yeah, man. and then like inside the shelters themselves, they have to deal with like abuse. There's like robberies. There's, like,
you get beat up.
rapes, there's a whole bunch of things.
There's crimes, people.
Man, there's scenarios where they get like tuberculosis, right? So it's like it's like it's a shit show. That's what I'm trying to say. It gets to a point where it's unmanageable. And Toronto should be taking like a real close eye at what's happening in San Francisco. But unfortunately, I think it's pretty hard from like a municipal administrative perspective to actually deal with a solution. To come up with a solution for this.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, even in Vancouver, Seattle is very.
Oh yeah. Because they have
that for a long time.
Was it East Hastings? So yeah. In Vancouver, it's their Skid Row, right? And it's like literally Skid Row. It's disgusting. It's I don't know, man. It's all. Well, then there's also, I mean. For a long time when I was an undergrad, my thesis was like, we're going into an economic depression. And you sort of look at what's happening here, and I don't know, it's hard not to argue that. Because the only reason we're not in one is like literally like technicalities. Like I said, we're reporting enough people, so there's enough economic activity that we're not in a recession. But I don't know. The economics picture in Canada is not exactly the best. On a positive note, the Bank of Canada did a rate hike recently, and they said that's going to be their last one for a bit.
Yeah, they gotta hold it.
Unless the environment changes. Yeah. So, yeah.
God, I hope so. Our mortgage is just not so pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, variable or fixed, yeah. It's rugged. I don't want to say who, but like when one of my other people in my life got they got variable, and it was a good deal last year. Variable was good. It wasn't good, but now it's high. now it's high.
I'm on a variable. Like you're talking to one, so
Yeah, I took fixed because I was forced to, and it was I'm at first I'm like, man, I'm paying like 2% more of everyone else. Everyone else got some cheap deals. They're getting down like 2-3 grand. Like they started off with like we'll just put you at like 5 for a fix. I'm like, this is so high, but then this year they're like, no, you're saving money now. You guys.
Which is crazy. Which is crazy, man. Because like if you can, there's so many things to consider. 2019 or 2020, Tiff Macklem, right? Chief Bank Canada comes out and says Canadians should be confident in knowing that interest rates will stay low for like the future, right? I'm paraphrasing, right? And then basically within like 3 years, we went from like 0.75 or 0.125 to what are we at right now?
Five.
About 5.
Jesus fuck, bro, that's crazy.
Nobody really saw this coming though. This was like.
I mean, okay, that's not necessarily true.
No, I think people saw it.
Everyone's yeah. What are you talking about?
5%.
Yeah.
Well, no. Okay.
It's just the rates have been so low for such a long time. They couldn't keep that up forever.
See,
right?
okay, like I get what you're saying. Nobody would have saw this coming, but then there's a couple of things that I look at. Like for example, Tiff Macklem he basically just got the job. The previous chief left, and I think it was for reasons like this. He was like, no way, I'm going to be in power when this kind of crap happens. Or even a better example would have been Morneau, who was the chief finance minister, right? And then like when they started doing like all the COVID stimulus, before even that, he was like, nah, fam, I'm out of here. Yeah, okay, not under my watch. This is not happening, right? But there was a bunch of people on Bay Street, because I was working at asset management firm at the time, and like a bunch of the PMs were like, yo, so like, there's no way interest rates like there's no way because basically the whole thing was the only way that we had the only ammo that we had in terms of like economic recovery that the central bank can do essentially is by diminishing interest rates, right, providing stimulus. But when COVID started, we're already at like 1 point whatever, right? So like everyone knew we had to increase at some point because it was going to affect inflation. They were seeing that for years. The only positive thing that was happening was for the shortest period of time was because everybody provided COVID stimulus at the same time. Everyone, like, the G20 countries had it's like monetary policy that was like synchronized.
Okay, so different topics. Okay, so did you bring 5 topics today?
Yeah.
We're here to interview you, so that's our warm up. Okay, so let's go through your topics, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not even on the list of topics, but sometimes people are interested in like my story a bit because I used to be like a tech lawyer.
Sick. Okay, let's hear about this.
And then I recently quit that to become an actor in film and television.
Okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us your story, man.
Yeah. So I'm born and raised in Toronto, and
nice.
I went to law school. Went to UT, and then went to York for law school.
Very
and
nice.
I worked on Bay Street for a few years, like investment banking, corporate stuff, M&A.
Amazing.
Then worked in tech for a few years, health tech, and then most recently had a startup in like the buy now pay later space.
Sick.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever used like a product like that, like Afterpay or.
Yes, I have. Yeah, well, I know about it. I don't want to use it, but I know about it. Yeah. I'm trying to use Afterpay, man.
And we could have a whole separate conversation on what I think are the advantages of that. Mm-hmm. But anyway, skipping past that, we sold that business at the end of 2020, and then I worked for just a year for the company that bought us. It was called Affirm.
Nice.
And then I was just feeling like I was done with the corporate grind, and. Just like how many years do I want to spend working at a desk, at a computer, and so I decided to just walk away from it and go after the acting thing. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So like, did you want to be an actor when you were younger, when you were like a kid, or?
I thought about it, but never like that seriously because it's like quite a risky career path to pursue. Yeah, it's like trying to be a pro athlete. Like only the top people really make a living at it.
Yeah.
So I kind of did like a lot of people do it the other way. For me, it's just like they try to be an actor straight out of high school or college or whatever. They grind it out for a while, maybe 10, 15, 20 years, and eventually if it doesn't work, then they have to start thinking about like their future and a job and saving for retirement and all that kind of stuff, so they leave acting. So I'm a bit older than people who I'm like often in acting classes with, but I kind of did it the other way, which is I did the safe path first, the corporate stuff, and then once I got to a point where I felt like I could walk away from that, I shifted over.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a smarter thing to do, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've done just started last year. I've done like a couple short films. And
wow, good.
Booking a couple more recently. So
Sick.
yeah, trying to get an agent this year and see where I can take it next.
That's sick. So like, what type of what genre of short film do you like to do? Like, what type of characters do you like to play?
When you're new, you're pretty much taking whatever you can get. You're trying to build up your resume a little bit. So right now I'm just anything that I can fit the age range and the profile of the character, I'll take a shot at it because I just want to get the experience.
What do they typically cast you as? What do you get booked for? When they see you, they're just I put you in that role.
Yeah, it seems like I'm kind of like a Chad, Jim Bro.
That's fucking hilarious. Okay, that's cool. All right.
The first thing I did, I literally was called Chad
in
my in my role.
That's good. That's good, man.
But I'll lean into it if that's what I can do, and I'll take that, no problem.
That's cool. Have you done any acting classes or studying or a
Yeah. So I started with some stuff called Meisner training, which is it's a repetition exercise where two actors just basically repeat the same idea back and forth at each other. I'm looking at you, you're looking at me, I'm looking at you, you're looking at me. We just keep saying it until something changes between us.
Okay.
And then I'd be like, you're getting pissed off, and he's like, I'm getting pissed off, you're getting pissed off, and then just keep going with it and just see wherever it takes you. And sometimes people are crying, they're shouting at each other.
Yeah.
It gets really wild sometimes. So that was my first experience with acting class, and then I'm more so shifted over to on-camera film and television training.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's more scene work and audition techniques, learning how to audition properly, how to use the frame that you're in because
facial
and you're gonna do something, you do it out of the frame so it looks real, and sort of how to use the camera the most effectively to sort of make your audition look the best that you can. So that kind of stuff, and continuing to study. A lot of actors, they study almost forever. They go to film a movie, if they're doing well, they go back to their studio, they study for a while, they go shoot something else, they come back to the studio. So studying is it's a never-ending task.
It's a craft you work on forever.
Yeah, at least for probably 10 years plus of training before you would feel I don't need to study anymore, I got this down.
Are there any characters or types of movies or personalities that that would be a dream role, a type of movie or a type of character that you could just get lost, like the Joker, something intense, method acting,
that's a good one.
I think method acting, we can have a discussion about method acting. But are there any dream roles, dream movies, dream TV shows where you're just I would love to be I would love to play that character?
I kind of like the stuff that's more sci-fi, fantasy, that kind of thing. So things like Vikings, to play.
You want to be a Viking? No, I think you could be on Vikings, bro.
Yeah.
I think you could be on Vikings.
Yeah, or I really there's some sci-fi stuff that's been really good, The Expanse, which is actually made in Toronto. And it's so good. So a James Holden type of role would be really cool to do.
They film it near my house. Right by my parents' house in Leslieville.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's because I guess Astrolab Studios is at the bottom of I don't want to dox myself, at the bottom of the street in Leslieville, and I walked by where they're just we're filming The Expanse, and the little signs there for people to drive in, and I've watched behind the scenes of The Expanse, and they're the actors are flown in, they're all staying at Airbnbs downtown, and then they're all just taking the driver will pick them up, drive them to Leslieville, bring them to the studio. They have the whole thing like a spaceship built inside, and they get inside the scenes, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
So that would be so fun to do something like that, I think. But there's tons of good kind of cop dramas that are being made. Something like The Wire or that.
Yo, Wire.
But there's it's golden age of content right now. There's so much good stuff being made that being cast in anything that's got a good story, a good script, good writing. You could take that in any direction.
It's golden age of TV. All the streaming services are really heavily funding new series as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have any opinion on method acting? Going full method?
Yeah, not really. I mean, we kind of learn in the studio that I'm at, there's kind of different definitions of what method acting is. I think the popular idea of it is staying in character the whole time that you're shooting.
Oh God!
Yeah, Jared Leto is famous for doing that. Yeah. But the method acting as it originally started was more about let's say your character is sad in a scene. You think about something from your own life that makes you sad. Yeah. And so you're not really being your character, you're being yourself, and you're using that emotion from your own life to become the character. But that is kind of frowned upon now. People don't really do that style of method acting anymore because it becomes obvious that you're not really involved in the scene because your mind is elsewhere if you're thinking about, you know, something
That's
that
a good,
happened
that's
in
a
your
good
own
point.
life.
I see.
So that style of method acting is kind of on the outs, like people don't really do it anymore. The modern approach is more like you're acting genuinely and authentically as the character. So if your character is doing something, you don't pretend to do it. You really are doing it. And if your character is experiencing emotion, you don't pretend to have that emotion. You really have that emotion.
Wow.
And so you try to be as authentic as possible, and then the camera just sees what you are, rather than trying to put on a face or trying to create something that's fake and try to just make it resemble what you're trying to be as a character, because again, people are going to tell. It's going to be obvious that, you know, you're faking it, right? So it, like, the craft of learning how to do it is actually learning how to behave authentically on camera and relax and really become the person that you're trying to be, rather than acting as something.
Wow, I really like that. Yeah, I've heard, I watched this one YouTube video about how, like, they were saying that, like, all these actors who've gone, like, full method, they say that it was kind of just, like an excuse for these guys to be, like, assholes on set. Like, Jim Carrey went full method, and he was, like, beating up his co-stars,
Oh
and,
my
like,
God.
and, like, even when they weren't filming, he was just like, yo, if you're my enemy, I'm gonna beef with you for the next 6 months until the film is done. So, like, he would, like, go to the guy's trailer after hours and, like, pick fights with them, and trash his dressing room, and he would just, like, bully the guy for, like, 6 months just to really get into it, you know. So I always thought it was
that's kind of messed up. Like,
it's probably unnecessary.
On some level, I get that though, because, like, how do you train the emotional flexibility to feel an emotion that may not be genuine to you, but, like,
it's hard. And, like, the reason that someone would do that is because then, like, when they call action, you're already in the mind space of the character. You're already feeling that emotion.
Oh, okay.
Whereas if you're doing this, like, a serious scene, and every time they call cut, you're laughing and joking, and you come out of it, it's hard to go back into that emotion.
That's true.
And then out of it, and then back in, like, repeatedly. So, like, usually, like, when we take in class, he doesn't really like us to be laughing and joking between the takes or talking. It's like, it's serious in there.
Seriously.
Because every time that happens, people stop paying attention. You're trying to do a serious scene, the people up there are laughing. Now they've got to recover their emotions and try to get serious again before you start the next take.
Get back in the
So
mood.
it's easier to just stay in that space the whole time you're there.
That makes sense, yeah. Like, I had a friend, he's worked in theater for a really long time, and he was talking to me about sort of the training, but, like, I found, like, theater training really interesting because it's all live, and they make you really, really commit and sort of get into it, and I heard film acting is interesting because the frame is so close to your face that, like, a lot of what the training do actually do is actually how to control your facial movements on camera and how to, like, make your emotions on screen read, and it's almost like you're like emoting essentially the expression of the actual character, like, within the frame of the camera. Versus, like, theater, where you have the whole stage, and, like, theater, it's like, you know, if you're turning the pages on the book, you might be doing it, like, in a really exaggerated way, so the person on the back can see it. Anyways, so, like, and so I was watching this, and I was like, this movie's fucking crazy, man. Like, there's this one scene where she gets out, and, she just, like, they're in a class, and they're all trying to learn to become, like, sex spies, like, for the Russian military, for the Russian CIA. So she just gets, like, butt naked, and there's a guy right there, and she's like, yeah, like, come over and, like, fuck me in front of everyone. And the guy, like, couldn't do it, and she's like, you're a fucking pussy. And I'm watching this, and I'm just like, there are so many things as an actor that just involve, like, a maximum level of vulnerability. Like literally get butt naked in front of the whole world. And make it convincing. Like, no smiling. Like, make it. You can't be laughing. Make it, like, convincing. And what are your thoughts on being an actor and doing those type of, like, really vulnerable scenes? Like, really, like,
You can't be an actor if you're not willing to do it. Like, you probably shouldn't even try, right? Like, the two things that, you know, we learn are the most important is vulnerability and susceptibility. Because, like, the heart of, like, good acting is spontaneity. Because if you're really authentically believing you are your character and something happens and you react spontaneously, that's going to yield, like, the best emotional value and, like, the best sort of authenticity of the scene. Like, he was talking about how, like, in one movie, I forget what movie it was. I think it was in San Francisco or something like that. Guy, name was Milk. Anyway, somebody's, like, the mayor, and they drive up to City Hall, and somebody had parked, like, a prop car in the parking space where he was supposed to park his car for the scene. So, and there's a no parking sign, one of those just, like, you know, poles. And so he just double parked his car, and he grabbed the no parking sign and chucked it into the prop car that was sitting there and on set, and they put that scene in the movie.
Oh fuck! Oh yeah, there we go.
So it's like little things like that often become the most like memorable parts of a film.
Oh
It's like the unplanned stuff, or the things where the actors are spontaneously reacting to one another, rather than just trying to map out exactly what am I going to do in this scene, because then it becomes too rote, like it becomes expected.
They want that super authentic. That's the most fascinating thing I found about actors is that you have to like become that energy to make it convincing on camera. Like I have another friend who was an actor. Like he's actually dead. He was actually on Degrassi, right? So I spoke to him about acting, and I feel like watching movies with if like, we were watching the movie End of Watch with like Jake Gyllenhaal and which is the cop movie, right? So I like just watching it with him, and I said like, what do you think about this movie? He's like, this is a great movie. I said, why? He's just like, because it just feels real, man. It feels real and it's fun to watch. And he's just like, the acting is good when it just feels real. I said, what about like getting in a character and like being really technical, this and that, learning acting? He's like, yeah, that's part of it too, but it's the whole goal of like, you know, let's say like getting like the personality of the character, the accent, like whatever kind of technical things, is just to produce the reality of that character, to become that character. Yeah. And then when you can achieve that, that is like, you've essentially like rendered the character at like at 100%, and now you are that person, and he says that's what good acting is, and I was like that's fucking easy. He said make it feel real, man.
You know what's interesting? Like I totally agree with that, because I love that movie, and I didn't think it was from that perspective, because they really do humanize like.
Oh, it was a great movie.
if you think about like the characters in that movie from like an outside perspective, like wow, these are basically just two cops who just say shoot the fuck out of people in the hood.
Yeah.
like that, like that's it. But then it's like when you actually watch the movie, like oh wow, it's like
very it's like high concept versus low concept. Yeah. Right? But sometimes a movie doesn't have like a big plot that's necessarily driving everything.
Yeah.
Like a superhero movie's like that, right? There's always big plot points that drive all of the scenes.
Yeah.
Low concept is just like two cops on the beat.
Exactly.
And there's not like a big narrative or anything that tells you what's going to happen in the film. It's more about the dialogue, you know, the interactions between the characters.
Yeah.
I have this actress. Yeah, so like I work in video animation, so like I do commercials and music videos. That's sort of been like my study of like film and TV production in general, right? So I had this I was assisting on this one film shoot for like, it was like for the 48 Hour Film Festival in Toronto. So like I was just driving like this actress home because like I'm helping out right now. I'm being a PA, so I'm driving. So I had this conversation with her, and it was this whole thing about being an actor and being willing to be vulnerable and willing to be silly if necessary, and like not being afraid of like making mistakes on camera, and just really putting yourself out there. And then I said to her, I said, no, I don't really think I like that. I'm not good at that shit. Like I kind of want to help like control the scene. And she says, no, if you want to control it, she's like, that's a director's trait. You should go in like in direction or like that side if you want to be in control. She's like, if you want to be like, she's like sometimes as an actor, like you need to be so vulnerable. She's just like, sometimes like you gotta be down to be the meat puppet. I was like, her words not mine. I was like, holy fuck. I was like, holy shit. And she's like, you need to get into the character and commit and become what you need to become to tell the story. She's like you have to sacrifice and become that. I was like, oh shit.
So is it like a meat puppet? Is a better word like an instrument?
No, her word's not mine. Her word's not mine. I was like, holy fuck, when you said that. And I was like,
what a better way of saying it would be like you're an instrument of the director. You're an instrument of.
They do call it that actually. Like they say your acting instrument is like your body. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, and then even then, like I read this book recently. It was because I was trying to understand if I ever need to do this in my life. It's like I read a book. It's called Directing Actors, and it was just about how to actually work with actors. I don't know anything about it, right? And I read the book, and a lot of the book, it's not about controlling the actors. It's more like an orchestra, and it's about sort of like just creating harmony with everyone, so everyone can bring forth their best performance. And maybe there's just one person to kind of create a little more organization, but it's not about like controlling anyone. It's about like, you know, like if you didn't think they were good, you wouldn't put them on set in the first place, right? Like everyone was qualified, obviously, right? So you're just trying to assist everybody and help organize the entire production. That way, like these actors can get their best performances out, and that's sort of the role of a director. It's not really like, you know, it's not really, because the way she said it was like you're gonna like come in and just try to control everyone and be like, because I've heard was it the director for like Mad Max or something like that? I can't remember. I can't remember. No, was it the director for Apocalypse Now? It's Martin Scorsese, right? Francis Ford Coppola. Some of these movies are just so awful to produce that you might end up becoming like a drill sergeant to make everyone do what you want to do, because the movies are so uncomfortable to shoot, and everyone's so exhausted, and the craft services food sucks, and like everyone's sleep deprived, right? Have you had any like film shoots that you've been on that were like really tiring or demanding, or like holy shit, this is Thank God not.
Not yet. I'm sure it's coming if I'm lucky enough to be in that opportunity. But yeah, not yet. But even like a few hours shoot, you do start to get like a bit mentally fatigued from, especially if you're shooting the same scene like 20 times over, because you're saying the same lines. You're trying to be, authentically emotional if that's what the scene requires. But then it's like, all right, now we're gonna isolate on you and do it again. And now we're gonna isolate on him. Now we're gonna do the wide shot, and it's just like you just end up doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
So like that can be challenging. Just to like, how many takes can you do before it starts to feel like a bit mechanical? Like
on that topic, I was randomly on a set once, and there was a scene that they had to record, and basically this guy was smoking in it. And I didn't realize.
Oh, you probably smoked 2 full packs.
An hour, 2 hours, the same scene. It's like puffing out the same.
Like in scenes where the actors are eating. Like,
you
don't swallow the food, so there's always a spit bucket full of like all the half-chewed food from
all
every
the unique
take.
things. Man, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Have you seen any other kind of like behind-the-scenes tricks that I feel like only like the behind-the-scenes set would like know about, like spitting the food? That's a good example.
Yeah, they do like they call like cheating a shot. So like sometimes basically the way that you're sort of positioned relative to other people or the furniture or whatever in a scene, the camera angle doesn't work if you try to shoot it from 2 different perspectives. So they call it cheating. So they'll actually move someone to like a different location. You can't tell when you watch it later, but you may, like I may have recorded the first take here, and then I may sit like a foot over to the side or a foot in front of where I was
for continuity
for the next take.
I see.
Because the camera needs to see through like that space, and if I'm sitting here, you can't get the shot. So they call it cheating, where you basically move things a little bit here and there, or move the camera, or move the actors. So they're not actually where they appear to be, based on how you edit it later, in order to get like the right angle, the right shot that you want.
For continuity, I was working with this one actor, and he had experience. So we were shooting in this like really long hallway, but the hallway was identical on both sides. So like we had the camera coming this way, and then the director wasn't like, I guess the DP wasn't as experienced, so the camera was coming this way. And then, and he's just like, no, you can shoot it both directions. We can just walk in a circle because the walls are identical. So like on the frame, it looked exactly the same. Yeah. So he was telling him tips, just things like that. Like we wouldn't think of it, but if you have experience, you would probably notice things like that.
Yeah, it's all about what's in the frame, like what's in the shot. Like you could have a bunch of debris, table, whatever. As long as it's not in the frame, then it's fine, right? So it's always about just aligning exactly like when they frame the shot, what's in it and what's out, and like that will drive a lot of the decision making.
I feel like that's a euphemism for life. Oh man, what was the first movie you remember watching?
Oh god, maybe like Home Alone.
Yo, that was a good one.
I remember going to the theater with my grandmother when I was probably like something like 5 years old to see that movie, maybe 5 or 6. Yeah.
You know what mine is? Omen.
Oh, dude, that movie's so scary. Any of those like 80s horror movies are like really horrifying.
How old were you?
Oh man, I was probably before 6 years old.
You were watching a horror movie when you were 6 years old?
Oh yeah, I mean,
my parents showed me Alien Resurrection, and I was 8 years old, and I was way too young to watch that movie. That movie had so many things going on that an 8-year-old should not watch. Like they're cloning people. Like there was cannibalism in it. There was kind of like a C-section in it in the first 10 seconds of the movie.
Wow,
like an alien there was like an alien C-section, right? There was like that movie was horrifying to watch, and it was just like a hardcore like Ridley Scott movie, really gory, like pretty wild.
You know what my favorite movie of all time is though?
What?
Space Jam.
Space
Jam.
Have you seen the second one?
No, was it with LeBron?
Yeah.
Yes, I didn't see it.
I haven't seen
LeBron.
It's like really bad, so you probably don't
I
even want to see it.
I'm not gonna have that ruined. Just the combination.
First ones was so good.
It was the best thing ever. The combination of like Looney Tunes and Michael Jordan.
Even the music.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean R. Kelly.
I know. Now it's so sad.
Rest in peace.
I
Yeah.
The R. Kelly documentary was fucking wild.
I believe I can fly to penitentiary.
Yeah.
But I
can't. He's like a monster. It's so sad.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible.
Have you guys seen the Netflix documentary Surviving R. Kelly?
No, I don't want to watch it.
I sat through the whole thing just to see what's up.
Wait, it's not on Netflix. It's like on some random like channel.
No, they put it on Netflix. It was on Netflix, bro.
It was on Netflix.
It was on Netflix, man.
Isn't that the funniest part about the back end of like essentially like action and everything is how media is purchased and resold? Because it was like some production house created that. Nobody would actually float it, so they went to like some random distributor. They were the ones that actually first got it out, and they probably weren't able to get enough eyes, so they resold it to Netflix. It's interesting. Like everything is all like trips, like intellectual like property rights, right?
Yeah, just
Yeah, it's
that stuff moves around the different platforms too. Like it'll be on one place, and then a month later it'll be somewhere else.
Yeah,
How
actually.
was the documentary?
horrifying.
Oh, I watched it all.
Okay, so what happens is that this guy used to go to like high school.
He's terrible.
And,
Oh my God.
And he would get his security, be like, "Oh, go talk to that girl," and she's like, "Oh, like R. Kelly would like to talk to you."
Oh no,
and then he would start bringing back all these high school girls, and he was molesting all these girls.
No, R.
And
R. Kelly deserves to be in like all
no,
types of
he
prison.
did it to like 300 chicks or something.
No, it was the worst.
And he filmed like he had at least 70, 80 videos of it.
I'll tell you.
He filmed most of it.
The
yeah.
worst part about the whole thing about R. Kelly is that everyone knew. I'm telling you.
Yes.
He was in court. Like
Yeah.
it was like it's almost like rappers like Tekashi 6ix9ine, all these guys being in court for some bullshit, and then at the same time they have a crazy track drop. So like when he was in court at the peak of like these accusations, which he did do, he fucking went to jail for this shit. Like his song Ignition came out, and everyone what happened was the public was so conflicted. They're just like, yo, like. We know that there's way too much evidence that this guy did. This guy's like all over the news from molesting girls. At the same time, this new song is so fucking good. This new song is so fucking good.
He married Aaliyah, one of the biggest pop stars.
When she was like 17.
16 or 17,
she was like,
yo, it's almost ridiculous.
The thing with R. Kelly, though, was like, he was molested really heavily. He's an extremely disturbed individual.
Doesn't really give you a reason.
I'm not getting him an L, but there's a cause and effect thing. Like he was molested. He was abused. He was molested by like 2-3 different family members. He was fucked up. Yeah.
Let's fully elaborate. Yo, he literally. So it wasn't even like he was like, okay, well, this was statutory rape. What he had basically was a house of like underage women.
Yeah, but like, didn't marry the girl? She was 14.
She was like, it was terrible, but like.
I think married a few 14.
Yeah. So what he did, like, why is such a predator, right? Is that you take young vulnerable women and be like, oh, I'll take care of you, right? And so it's like he was almost, what's the word I'm looking for? Grooming.
Oh yeah. All his videos
like that, like,
totally crazy.
But yeah, all of this is super disgusting, and it's very unfortunate. But he made great music though.
Just like Michael Jackson, like he made dope music. Michael Jackson was probably also a fucking child molester, you know, like
that. Michael Jackson is like, that's even a harder one to like, because I'll tell you, as a black community, we don't know what to do with it. You know what I'm trying to say? Right? It's like we fought so hard to bring back to the black side, and then that came out like, fuck. Come on, Mike.
He was a great artist, though. He was a great.
I don't know about. I feel like the weird thing about both those cases, Michael Jackson and R. Kelly, if you're looking at it actually from like a psychological perspective, these are both like, when I say this, I mean literally man-child. Like they were they had the.
They were disturbed.
They have the cognitive personality of a child.
Well, I think like Michael, he started molesting people probably at 30, so like he wasn't married, he wasn't like dating anyone, he was a pedophile, and he just started grooming all these like I saw the Surviving Neverland documentary as well too. I watched all these and the amount of evidence they had. So one kid came out and he told the entire story. It was an expose on the entire thing. Okay. A number of topics you want to talk about. So
it's good.
No, this is supposed to interview you, so it's like we do this every week. So it's kind of So the acting is really dope. Are there any like hot takes or opinions or like points of view you want like on camera? Like anything you want to discuss? Like anything that like perspectives on life, the world, the way the world's going, hot takes. Anything podcast material.
Have you like, do you make royalties off anything?
Not yet.
No,
I mean,
how's that whole process work?
Yeah, like it depends.
Coming in.
Yeah, it depends. Like sometimes you get royalties, or sometimes they do what's called a buyout, which is like they pay you a lump sum like up front. I think that's more for like commercials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so do they pay you up front so you don't get royalties?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's that way. So one of my friends, she did she did something similar. She did a business degree and she she had a good job and everything. She's like, yo, fuck, I want to become an actor. So she said, fuck, quit that shit. And then she did it for the first year, and she got an agent, and like, she went to LA, took acting classes. She hustled really hard, and then she got like a commercial for Crest, the toothpaste company. And at first she got paid to do the commercial, and it was whatever. But on the back end, they kept running it like crazy in Europe, and she got like a pretty size. This was like a long time ago, but like
royalties are where the real money's at.
It was like 10 years ago, but just on the residuals I think she made like 15 to 20 grand on residuals. So in addition to what she got paid to do the commercial, and she was telling me, she's like, this is how some actors like can actually kind of live, because you get it's like almost like music industry type stuff. You get like, let's say every single month start getting a check for like $1,000 that goes on for like a while. Then you start stacking those up, and then that becomes like if you just book enough of those, You know, I don't know what she's doing anymore, but like, yeah, that was one of the examples she gave me when she was like probably like 22.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you.
What?
Do you think there's a psychological effect of being a childhood actor?
Mm.
Do you think there's a long-term psychological effect for being a childhood
I
actor?
have no idea what's going on right now.
Maybe. Like,
Yeah.
I've heard that child actors are, like, better actors, like, because they know their way around a set so well and they're so familiar with how it all works that,
Yeah.
like, you know, producers, casting directors can tell a child actor from someone who's not.
It's a more experience, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they've been doing it for, like, so much longer. But
Yeah.
in terms of, like, the psychological effect, maybe, like, yeah, if you're a child star, your life is going to be very different from, like, the average kid. And
Yeah.
that could certainly affect you if you're, like, rich and famous, you know, before you're really ready to deal with that, like, stress.
Yeah. What about the ones that aren't rich and famous? Do you feel like it's almost like you experience
What's up, baby?
failure at an early age?
How you doing, man?
Maybe, like, yeah, it's work, you know, like, you're a working kid
Yeah.
at that point.
That yeah.
How's it going, bro?
That's quite different.
We got
Like,
some
most
wine
people-
too?
Yeah.
Cool.
Got some wine.
Most kids don't work anymore.
So really
Yeah.
interesting. This is
He's on our show quite frequently as well too.
Evie. This is Colin.
Hey,
Genevieve. Hi.
Genevieve.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is Eric. This is OT.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. So like, have you seen the movie Honey Boy? So Honey Boy, it's with Shia LaBeouf. And it's a movie about how his dad was like his manager when he was a kid when he was on that I think it was called Even Stevens.
Even Stevens.
So okay, dude, that
Show.
movie. So the actor who plays him is his name is Noah something. Anyway, so this kid's like 11 years old. Anyways, this movie was fucking crazy about being okay. So anyway, so his dad's a fucking bum, like an ex-drug addict, biker gang dude, and then his dad became his manager because he wasn't of age to sign his contracts to become part of Even Stevens, which was a huge TV show in the US, right? So they're living out of a motel doing this, and they're like in poverty, and his dad was like crazy abusive, and he had to like, Shia LaBeouf from a really young age had to like, let me get you a cup. There we go. Or, that's fine, whatever. Anyways, okay, from a really, there's some crazy scenes in that movie where like his dad's like full on abusing him and everything. He has to go to set the next day and like. And his dad was like I'd say like a hardcore narcissist, like abusive personality.
Well,
So
I would say for
Yeah.
you to put your child into acting, you probably are a bit like trying to live vicariously through them. Because I think like for you, I've never had a kid, but I would think the idea of like you said, it's such a very vulnerable thing to do. You're an instrument of somebody else. I feel like you would have to be a certain type of parent to allow that to happen to your child.
Well,
it's like
no, but it wasn't that it wasn't that like excuse me, it wasn't that his dad wanted to become an actor. It's just his dad was like a bum, and then the mom like ran out on him because the mom was also dysfunctional. So like, so the whole movie Honey Boy was just about him, and dude, FKA Twigs plays like the guy's girlfriend, and it was just fucking crazy. Anyways, but excuse me, just watching that was really crazy. And but anyways, I guess my understanding with child stars and like fame in general, the talent economy in general, is that you usually have some kind of curve. So it's like you can see this with Disney stars in the music industry quite a bit. You might have a curve if you're lucky, like Ariana Grande, you can have a curve as a Disney star. And then, or like, what's her name? Miley Cyrus, Justin Bieber. Ryan Gosling. Like, you'll have a curve, and some of them, the child stars who end up like really drug addicted or screwed up, they have the curve too young, and they end up kind of falling off. If you're lucky, you can do the curve where it's like Disney star, launch, rebrand you when you're like 17. Like for Ariana Grande, she went from being like Cat Stevens or something like that.
Oh yes.
Yeah, she went from being this kind of the dorky character who was always made fun of on the show to becoming like one of the most powerful divas, like Beyonce level performer. And then you'll ride that, and it's kind of like most top professions in general, like the NBA or whatever professional sports. You ride that probably through your 20s and your 30s, and then usually if you can sustain it, great. But like there's usually some kind of like peak moment, peak earning power, peak attention when you're most identifiable. If you're lucky, you can ride it the whole way through, like Al Pacino or like. Even Al Pacino, his wave happened probably in his late 20s actually because he started doing stuff later. He wasn't a child star, but yeah, that's my understanding of like the whole child star from this. So some of them can transfer into the adult realm, but some of them can't. Who's that guy from?
Here's my question.
Yeah.
At what point do you sell your soul to the Illuminati?
You are in a Okay, the whole Illuminati thing. Okay, you know I believe that's kind of a metaphor for it. The metaphor to me is that you're selling your soul to just hardcore corporate capitalism.
So is it
the U.S. media system?
Is it an open market? Like, is there an RFP process where you just like you're like, hey, my soul's
Soul
worth
for sale.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Is there like a range? You know what I mean? You just bring in bidders or like what is it like? So there's a bid and ask price, like a stock market of souls.
I don't know yet. We'll see what happens.
Okay, so did you have any other topics you want to cover, or do you want to speak?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
We've talked about this kind of stuff a lot before, but like I'm like hugely into like kind of biohacking, like nutrition, fitness.
Yes. Okay, let's get into this.
Stuff. So like, if you're interested in digging into that, we could talk nutrition, we could talk fitness, we could talk all kinds of stuff. So I've actually like given presentations in like back in my corporate career, just like for fun on this stuff, because I'm like, I don't know what to do with all this information I gathered. I gotta like share it somehow.
Okay, go for it.
So like in terms, I think nutrition is probably like one of the most underrated things that like most people don't really care that much about, but it's such a big determinant of your health.
Yes.
So like I kind of evolved, like I think my health really started improving a lot when I went on like a paleo diet, like probably 10 years ago.
Sure, okay.
And then more recently I've shifted to something that's called like a nutrivore diet, which is starting to understand like what foods are the highest in certain nutrients, micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, and then like protein-rich foods and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So like I think people generally underestimate the importance of protein in food, and like protein is like the king of the macronutrients because it's like structural for your body.
Okay, so what do you think about vegan diets? Let's go there. What do you think about vegan diets? Let's get into that.
Yeah.
Let's get into that.
So I think they've done a great job of like marketing vegan diets as being healthy for the individual or for better for the environment or more ethical. But when you scrutinize those claims, they all actually fall apart. Like none of them are actually.
I'm not vegan, don't worry.
Yeah. Well, if you were, I would have just offended you.
No, I'm not vegan, don't worry. Don't worry, man.
But
I tried to vegetarian. I couldn't.
Yeah, the most nutrient dense foods are basically all animal foods, animal-based foods.
Okay.
There was a recent study that looked at like micronutrient composition of like a ton of database of popular foods. Only one in the top like 12 was a plant-based food, leafy greens. Everything else was a bunch of organ meats are in there: liver, heart, kidney, pancreas.
Do you regularly eat organ meat?
Not regularly.
I know a guy who does.
Yeah.
I know a guy who only eats organ meat.
Oh, that's pretty aggressive.
It was hardcore.
Yeah.
He's like California hippie level. Like only eat organ meat.
Raw.
He doesn't eat them raw. He doesn't eat them raw. But what he does is that he goes down to the farmer's market and he gets livers, hearts, kidneys. And then he cooks it in a way that's actually quite delicious, I feel. But at the same time, that's like the fact that you want nutrient dense food so badly, you're willing to kind of forego eating like palatable shit like chicken. Like, I don't eat chicken breast, dog. I only eat like chicken livers, bro. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
You don't have to do that. Like,
I don't think
if you even eat like a serving of organ meats a week, you're getting so much nutrition from that one small serving that you don't need to do it the rest of the time. So like,
what are your thoughts on like the supplements, like the what's it called? Not petrified, but you know what I mean. Where
desiccated organs. Yeah, you can do that. If you really like can't stand the taste of liver or something, you could take a tablet like that. It's basically just a piece of liver that's been flash frozen.
Because where would one purchase a piece of liver if you live in Toronto?
Oh, Avenue too. So many places.
The grocery store has it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lived yesterday. It's just like I went to like a
the butcher
restaurant.
Farmer's market. It's pretty available. But
so do you eat organ meat once a week as part of your diet? No.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that.
You try to.
Yeah. I'll make pate. That's usually like the best way because you kind of mix it with a bunch of like butter.
No, because it tastes good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Farm Boy has like a really good like liverwurst sausage.
Nice.
So it actually tastes really delicious, and
that's a good way to do it. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good way. That's kind of the easiest way. You can just buy it, throw it in there, and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay, so add organ meat, eat more protein. What other tips do you have?
Yeah. So like, there's a lot of debate in like the world about like macronutrients. You know, protein, fat, carbs. Some people are like keto, high fat, and some people are like whatever. There's different debates. I think as long as you eat enough protein, which for a guy is like probably around 100, depending on how big you are, about 150 grams a day, which is like probably about double what most people eat.
Yeah.
So like increase your protein consumption substantially over what most people do. For a woman, maybe more like 100 grams a day, something like that.
So it's like 1 gram per pound of food.
Yeah, roughly, yeah. And then the other thing, I think everyone should try to do is to limit their consumption of like processed foods.
Yes.
So like these are things that are made like this pizza, things that are made from like kind of refined ingredients. So you take grains, you put them through a factory, you get this like refined flour, then you use that to make a food. Generally those foods are like extremely low in nutrition.
Whey protein then.
Whey protein, I think, is just like a solid addition. It's like it's not necessary, but
Yeah.
if you're trying to eat high protein, you can get a hit of 30, 40, 50 grams of protein quickly that way.
Yeah.
Which otherwise can be hard to get that much in your diet.
Yeah.
Okay, so high protein diet, eat organic meats,
and then relatively low in processed foods. And like
Okay.
one of the if you're in the grocery store reading, I think it's a good idea to read labels. And like I basically would recommend never buy anything that has any kind of like processed oil in it.
Yeah.
So vegetable oil, soybean oil,
Oh, yeah, that's just
canola
trash.
oil.
Yeah.
That stuff. It also used to be industrial waste.
It's
like
almost
they used to have
yes.
to pay people to take it away.
It's like brake fluid, pretty
Yeah,
much. Yeah.
and then they had the idea in like it was about 100 years ago in the 20s, it started entering the food supply, and they're like, hey, let's put this in as like an alternative to fat. They came up with this marketing campaign for it, like it's cleaner than animal fats, which were like the predominant, like lard and tallow and stuff were the predominantly used cooking fats up until that
How's
point.
it cleaner?
Well, they market it as like it's modern, we make it in a factory, it's not like from a dirty animal, it's like,
It's just corporations trying to sell byproducts. Like, you know the caffeine in Coke is from a product called urea. They say, we get it from like decaffeinated tea leaves. That's like 10%. They couldn't get enough from decaffeinated, so they have it from this product called urea, which is an artificial caffeine to put the caffeine back in a Coke. But they don't want to call it urea because it sounds like urine, right? So they call it from appropriated caffeine sources or something like that, from like natural caffeine.
Why not just change the name?
Well, that's what they did.
Yeah,
So they call it appropriated caffeine source. I watch the dog and I guess it's fucked because where are they going to...
Yeah, like what do you think vegetable oil is, right? That was a brilliant marketing move to basically remarket soybean oil and corn oil and whatever junk oils they put into vegetable oil.
Canola oil is like, canola oil is
It's
also
from canola.
Yeah, it's made from canola. It's like rapeseed. It's like a
That's also terrible.
plant. Yeah, that's why they rebranded it. But I wouldn't.
Wait, is it okay? Is it grapeseed or is it rapeseed?
It's called rapeseed, actually. Yeah.
Why in the world would they
rename that?
Yeah, like
It's a bad PR.
Canola actually stands for Canadian oil because it was like produced here a lot, and the producers realized they needed to come up with a new label for it. So they came up with Canadian oil. Canola
yeah, because I guess the first name was not going to work out.
Okay, so here's a question everyone's on. Okay, like, what's your opinion on intermittent fasting, man? What's your opinion on that?
So I do like time restricted eating every day, basically. So I don't eat in the mornings typically. I usually just eat 2 meals a day. It's like lunch and dinner.
Okay, that's doable.
And that gives your body some time, where it's taking a break from digesting food all the time. And probably, if you want to get like the real benefits of fasting, you probably need to fast for longer than just an overnight fast every day.
Yeah.
So I have done, I try to do a 3-day fast once a quarter. So
Fuck.
a few times a year. And I have done up to 5 days. I've done that a couple times.
How? What is 5 days? Like, so just a water fast.
Water and electrolytes.
How is you didn't eat food for 5 days?
Yeah, correct.
What is the science behind it? Is the whole autophagy thing like?
Yeah,
I had to look up autophagy and people were saying that like this is heavily debatable if this is actually helping your body or not.
No, I think there's good reason to believe that it is helping your body because like the basic of the science is that that we have 2 states, fasted and fed.
Yeah.
Or actually that's apoptosis, or cells look for components within themselves that are damaged and starts to consume them and recycle them, and that's autophagy.
Yeah.
So that's the science, is like basically your body, and it's not focused on short-term survival because there's no food to digest. So it starts to ask the question, what can we do for long-term survival? And that means we start cleaning damaged pieces out, and those things could eventually, become cancerous, for example. So it's like looking for stuff that's could cause a problem in the future. Let's clean it out now because we got some time where we're not focusing on digesting our food.
Wow. Okay. So do you support doing fasting once a quarter? Is that like something that you like? Is fasting
It's
necessary?
very debatable, like what the optimal protocol is for it, or whether you even need to do it at all.
Okay.
It's debatable, but I think doing at least a 2 or 3 day fast, maybe once in a while, once a year, or something like
seems
that.
Like a lot. I'm not gonna eat for 3 days, bro. That's like
5 days.
I'm gonna be fucked up.
Yeah.
5 days is wild. You can do 2 days.
Yeah.
You can build.
I'm gonna be fucking. My glucose level's gonna drop. I'm gonna be fucking dead.
You just have to build up to it, right? So basically, if you start doing intermittent fasting, after a while you start realizing like, hey, like I don't really need to eat as much. Also, if you have a more controlled diet in itself. Mm-hmm. You start realizing you don't need to eat as regularly.
And if you reduce your reliance on carbohydrates, like you're talking about your
glucose levels,
it's easier to go longer without eating because you're not used to these spikes and crashes in your blood sugar all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So like for me, I eat very high protein diet and relatively high fat, relatively low carbohydrate.
I think the fat helps because the fat burns slower.
Yeah, exactly.
So I probably
longer.
increase the fat in my diet because like I'm not eating high carb. I try to eat as much protein as I can, but I probably need to increase the fat quantity as well too.
Yeah, and the quality of fats too. Like I was saying, like don't get your fats from those like junk oils. Get them from like basically whole food sources.
Like
So,
avocados.
Yeah, like avocados, olives, that kind of stuff from the plant kingdom, or from animal foods, basically.
What about bacon?
No.
What about bacon?
Yes, I eat actually bacon very regularly. I think it's like an unfairly maligned food.
Yeah, I love bacon.
Bacon's got bad PR.
Bacon's great.
But overall, it's pretty nutrient dense food.
Yeah.
It's got a decent fatty acid profile. Like there's nothing too much to worry about in there. Some bacon is made with nitrites, which is like a preservative.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That it's debatable, like because it's hard to study, but there's some connections between nitrites and cancer.
Yeah.
But you can buy bacon that's made with like celery juice powder or whatever, which has nitrates, which perform the same function.
Okay.
So you can just basically buy preserved meats if you want some bacon or salami or something. Just buy it with like a non-nitrite type preservative.
Okay.
Honestly, maybe some people should do a fast like often because some of the people just like eat like trash, man. A majority of folks eat like trash.
It's true. The average person's diet is mostly junk food.
A lot of people are. We live in North America, man. Like something like 70% of people are obese.
Yeah, it's like
that's fucking good. That's crazy.
2/3 are overweight and more than half are obese or something.
Yeah, a
like
lot of it's sedentary lifestyle.
Yeah,
a lot of it's sedentary life. But the other thing is like a lot of the greatest thing.
Well, it's also like the makeup of like the culture too, right? If you go somewhere like say like I don't know, like Spain or like Japan where like there's more vending machines.
Yeah.
Here, like you go to a vending machine, it's usually all Papa chips, right?
Yeah.
Like there was a great report by I think it was Vox.
I want to say Japanese people. The Japanese diet is fucking horrible.
Yeah,
it's fucking.
Everything is deep fried.
They eat like amongst the most fit. I actually think they eat the most fish in the world.
I think traditional Japanese food is okay, but like urban Japanese food, I actually say I think it's like I've had some Japanese friends say that they're trying to eat more Chinese food because Chinese food has vegetables in it. Because Japanese food has the worst vegetables. Out of all the Asian diets, Japanese food has like the least amount of vegetables. All they have is fucking
I don't
seaweed
know
and
about that because they've also said Japanese.
They do live extremely long, but the traditional Japanese diet is very healthy.
They live long because of the
traditional Japanese diet is very healthy.
because of the moderate diet and also because of the makeup of like this culture, right? It's
and
like
arguably the seafood as well because they have like the highest blood levels of like omega-3 fats, which is like the stuff that's in like seafood.
What's happening now though is that there's a lot of Japanese people right now who they're getting that lead poisoning, bro. Really, really high levels of lead in their blood and stuff like that because if you just eat that your whole life, and it's not because of the fish, it's actually just because of like contamination in our environment at this point in time, which is actually very unfortunate.
Yeah, so like that's why we use the sauna a lot because you can actually sweat out heavy metals like cadmium and arsenic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm in the sauna basically every single day.
That's good. It helps.
Because it has more benefits beyond just sweating out heavy metals as well. It's like it can simulate exercise and induces what they call heat shock proteins, which is kind of similar to autophagy.
Do you do the cold bath after?
Yeah, I'll do cold shower
Okay.
after. Yeah, I try to do like at least 3 minutes. I get in 3 to 5 minutes cold shower.
Dude, you're on. Okay. Are you on a vitamin stack right now too?
I'm
on a vitamin stack,
no,
bro?
I'm not a big supplement guy, but I am thinking about it a little bit just because of the argument that like our food is less nutrient dense than it used to be because our soils have been robbed from a lot of the nutrients that used to be there. So you can eat as much nutrient dense food as you want, but if the nutrients aren't there present in the food to begin with, then it's harder to fulfill your needs. So I'm open to supplementing more, but these days I take vitamin D, I take omega-3.
Do you creatine? Do you like creatine?
I don't do creatine. I have done it in the past, and I'm open to doing it again. It's actually one of the most well-studied and effective supplements.
I've done creatine, and like you get a boost from it for sure. I heard it hydrates all your muscles. So when you're lifting, when you're like I don't get gas when I'm working out when I'm on creatine.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So when you're working out at like a very high intensity, your body is using creatine to fuel
the ATP in your cells.
And so supplementing creatine essentially just stuffs more creatine into your cells, which allows you to do an extra rep or work like.
I supplement pretty heavily, man. Actually, like I supplement. Actually, there's a whole.
Are you on creatine right now?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch.
You do it every day.
Pretty much every day. Pretty much every day.
Yeah.
But there's a whole bunch like a mushroom regimen I've been taking recently, like reishi, cordyceps.
Are you on lion's mane every day?
Yeah, lion's mane as well too.
Has it helped you? Are you in the nootropics? you do nootropics now?
I take it all. Yeah, actually, I think it makes a considerable difference when I take it and I don't take it. I also take Tonga Ali.
Mm-hmm.
There was a period of time I was taking. There was another one that's like I forget, but I supplement like
The thing I would say about supplements is like if you're not dialed in on your nutrition, your fitness, and your sleep, supplements are not gonna like really bend the curve that much.
Exactly.
Like they're more of like on the fringes. Like if you really dialed all that stuff in, and you want to try to like tweak a thing here or there, then supplements can be useful.
Yeah.
But if you got a crap diet, you're not sleeping, you're not lifting, you're not doing anything, you think you're just gonna take some pills.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
And I find sleep's the most important more than anything else.
Sleep is like because you're healing.
But it's not even just like length of sleep; it's quality of sleep.
I'm considering getting an Oura ring just to track my actual REM sleep because you've been tracking your sleep as well.
Yeah.
What have you noticed since getting it? Because I'm considering getting one.
Yeah,
just
so
to
like
monitor
the biggest insights I've had are, well, number one, how bad alcohol is for your sleep. Like it just destroys your sleep quality completely.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the other big one is that you want to leave some time before you eat your last meal and when you go to bed.
Yeah.
Because your body's like your heart rate is elevated while you're digesting your food because you're doing work basically. Your body's working to digest the food. So for years I would go to the gym after work, and by the time I would get home and cook dinner, it might be like 9 or 10 o'clock by the time I ate.
Yeah.
And then I'd pretty much go straight to bed after that.
Yeah.
And I would have trouble falling asleep. I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I laying in bed for 2 hours and I can't sleep? It was because I was eating right before I went to bed. So nowadays I try to eat dinner around 6 or 7, 8 at the latest, ideally. And then when I have a few hours where I've finished digesting my food before I go to bed, I fall asleep much more quickly. My heart rate is lower at the start of the night. That's one of the key insights is that you see your heart rate throughout the night. And ideally you want it to be low at the start and stay low throughout the whole night. But if you eat late or you drink, it starts very high and it'll only start to trend down towards the end of the night.
Okay.
And that tells you that you're not getting the restorative deep sleep that you need. Your body's in a state of light sleep during most of the night.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to have like a natural sleep cycle, ideally minimize alcohol. I mean, look, everything I'm talking about, it's not like you have to follow everything 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the 80-20 rule or the 90-10 or whatever. You can have exceptions. Nobody's perfect. And I'm not saying I'm perfect either, but I try to revert back to certain behavior patterns, which is to
more sustainable.
Yeah, not drink every day and try to eat.
Definitely not drinking every day. Crazy,
yeah, well, I mean, honestly, some people do.
There's a lot
like
of cultures. There's a lot of cultures out there. Like I was in Europe, and people like drink. People also in Europe, people drink everything. They don't drink. They smoke cigarettes like crazy all the time, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll also say though
the cigarette smoking out there, a little crazy out there.
There's a bunch of differences to the European lifestyle though. They spend a lot that they're not as sedentary.
They walk more, and then the food quantities in Europe are smaller.
Exactly.
Well, they have to walk more because of the way.
They have American cities, and then and most importantly, calorie deficit doesn't eat because American portions are so fucked. Like American portions, it's like it's fucking crazy.
So
it's like twice the amount.
I'm not saying it makes up for it, but I'm saying if you were on the American diet and lifestyle and smoking and drinking as much as they do, that's
what Texas is. When I went down to Texas, it was like, okay, when I went to Texas, the American barbecue is delicious, but like every place I went to was like American barbecue, and we have this amazing new sugary fucking cocktail that's like an XL, like
so big.
Like frozen slushy. And then
if you want a large, you want like an extra large. I'm like the large is already big enough.
The large is already an XL. That's like the medium's already an XL, and the XL. I'm drinking like 2 liters of like soda. And then the Texas, the honey bread, pure carbs.
Honestly, all the food
that
sounds amazing.
Bread.
Oh, it's very good. It's crack.
Yes.
It tastes like cake. I'm like, you eat this with a barbecue. They're like, yeah, man. I'm like, it's delicious, but
everything down there is so amazing.
Everything is bigger in Texas. That's what they tell me.
Messed up. I was actually supposed to move to Atlanta in the 9th grade, and I actually feel like it would have fundamentally changed my life.
I think you would have liked it because I guess for all my black friends who were down there, it's essentially Black Hollywood, bro.
Yeah.
Like it's
they call it Black Atlantis.
Yeah, dude, and like all my friends who are down there, they just and right now it's become like a much more progressive place, and and it's just like it's almost like it's Black Hollywood, bro. It's pretty much If you're I feel like even all the studios and everything, like Tyler Perry, it's all run by black people. Like it's really like their own economy down there in many ways.
Black Atlantis.
Yeah, because Tyler Perry, he controls all these studios. They film Walking Dead there. Like it's there's so many grants and everything, so it's become a culture.
The question is, would you want to live past 100? Especially as more cultures have a lot more centurions.
It depends what the planet's like.
I mean, just 10 years ago, there was only one country that had a decent number of centurions, which was Japanese. But now you've got Greece up there, right? I
Yeah.
think you've got they
Mediterranean
said
diet.
parts of I think they said Colombia or like Peru where there's a lot more centurions now, but more and more countries are living longer because they're probably adjusting the way their life a little bit. Right?
Unless I grow horns and a horse body, I don't want to be a centurion. You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Like,
Oh, but it is kind of fucked that the average lifespan in Canada is 4,000 weeks, which is 80 years old. The U.S. is I think the top end at I think they were at 72, but I think they went down to 70.
That's
now.
fucking horrible.
Dude, Russia's at 66. The average lifespan of Russia is 66
Russia
years
has
old, dude.
reasons for it to be at
Do you know-
66. Like America, it's
do you know how much vodka they drink?
Oh, dude, like the government did. The government.
Wait, no, seriously. Do you know like?
Oh, no, it's record amounts.
Vodka is
Yeah.
actually like
Yeah.
instrumental part of Russian culture.
No, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally like so. Back that's how the Tsar used to sort of like give out power. He used to give out vodka contracts to
it's like political. Yeah, I read. It's on doc on that. It's almost like corruption. I heard number one right now is actually South Korea drinks the most amount of booze per day.
Oh, for real?
I heard South Korea somehow won. Anyways, yes. So Genevieve, you're on the podcast. Is there anything you want to talk about today?
Yeah.
Topics, hot take. No, look at her. Genevieve. She's just like no.
How long do you guys want to go? Because we have a dinner reservation. I'm just trying to figure out if I should
No,
try to
if
move
he is-
it or.
No. When you need to go dinner, it's okay. This is a casual podcast.
Yeah.
As long as we're covering all the topics that you want. This is your podcast today. You're the guest. Anything you want to talk about, things that you want recorded. Because we're gonna talk this up. I'm gonna give you the clip. So
Yeah.
yeah. So we talk about food, nutrition. Talk about acting. Anything else you want to talk about, or you continue on any of these topics if you want.
There are more, but I'm trying to decide if because our reso is like coming up soon, so I don't know how much
Oh, so
more
that's
we can dig
yeah.
into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there resume at 9?
It's at 8:30.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
where is it? Where
It's
is
like
it?
right across the street, but
You should go right now. We can cut it. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good. We can cut it, man. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast. That was dope. That was informative, and that was dope. That was like quick. That was good.
Yeah. Sorry to
No. We can keep filming as well too.
No, yeah.
The podcast people come on and come off, and sometimes people come later and they film as well too. But it's all casual. So all right, cool.
All right.
All right, guys. That's episode 9. Here we go. Here we go.